Hello and welcome to This Day in History. It is July 6th, 2024, and as you all know that the year doesn't matter because it's all about the day in history of July 6th. We got quite a bit here, so let's just get into it, shall we? So the birthdays. The first birthday is 1747. John Paul Jones. He was a Scottish-born U.S. naval officer. Served in the Revolutionary War. We fast forward to 1921. Nancy Reagan. She's an American actress. She was also the First Lady. She was married to Ronald Reagan, who was our 40th president. I think it was 40th? Yeah. Anyway. She was a real class act. I had a lot of respect for her. She was born on this day in 1921. In 1935, the 14th Dalai Lama was born, and if you don't know what a Dalai Lama is, that is a Tibetan Buddhist monk. 1940, I'm going to butcher this name, I apologize. First of all, is the president of Kazakhstan, but it's Nursultan Nazarbayev. I hope I didn't butcher that too badly, I'm sorry. Born 1940. 1946, we have actually two birthdays today in 1946. Former president, which would have been president number 42, I believe, George W. Bush. And also we have American actor, writer, director, producer, Sylvester Stallone, old Sly himself. Happy birthday, Sly. Hope it's been a great day for you. Oh wow, that's it for the birthdays. So this day in history, we're going back to 1415. Jan Hus, Jan Hus was burned at the stake for heresy. Jan Hus was a Czech religious reformer criticized basically, so if you criticize the church back then, and when we're talking the church, we mean like the Catholic Church, you criticize them, you tell them they're wrong. They basically say you're a heretic. They put you on this mock trial that you have no way of ever being exonerated because they've already decided your guilt. So then you're burned. Basically, you're tied up to a pole where a big wood pile is put there. They put that wood pile to fire, and they burn you at the stake, meaning that you just, you probably die from the smoke inhalation long before the flames ever, burn your body. But it was a horrible way to die, and it was part of the that period of time where they called the Inquisition. And basically what it was is that if the Catholic Church felt any threat to their authority, they basically acted like the Sadducees and Pharisees of the Jews during the time of Christ, and they essentially did the exact same thing that the Sanhedrin did. So Sadducees and Pharisees, they are religious leaders in the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin is the religious body that condemned Christ to death. So the Catholic Church did the same thing. During the Inquisition, they did the same thing. If you had discovered something in a matter of science, if you had an idea that contradicted, their official religious doctrine, they labeled you a heretic. Well, they gave you an opportunity to recant what you have said and to apologize, recant, repent, whatever. But if you stuck to your guns and you said, no, this is the truth, this is what I found, blah 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 blah, they would burn you at the stake, and they'd label you a heretic. They'd excommunicate you from the church. So in their mind, it's their way of exonerating themselves from any sin in murdering you, the offending party. So that's what happened to this guy, Jan Hus. He was a religious reformer. So he was one of those that probably had jumped on the bandwagon of like what Martin Luther did when, that's how the beginning of the Protestant churches, really. So, and we have 120 years later, something similar. We actually talked about this guy in a previous video. I can't remember how. Oh man! Sometimes I can't even understand my own chicken scratch. Thomas More, executed by way of beheading for refusing to accept Henry VIII as the head of the Church of England. Mind you, this guy was we talked about him in before it was the trial. Now here's the actual execution. So it's on this day, July 6th, 1535, that this clergyman is executed because he refused to acknowledge that King Henry VIII was the head of the Church of England. A lot of stupidity back then. Any rate, we fast forward to 1777 is the American Revolutionary War. Brigadier General John Burgoyne captures Fort Ticonderoga. Obviously, John Burgoyne was the British general. And if I recall correctly, the traitor, Benedict Arnold, he had switched sides. There's a long story there. But he had switched sides, and I think he had helped the British capture Ticonderoga, either through his intimate knowledge of the base or, the defenses and, all the inner workings, that sort of thing. I believe that he was involved in that successful capture of that fort. 1885, Louis Pasteur successfully tests an anti-rabies vaccine. Here I missed a birthday. We go back to birthdays real quick. 1907, Mexican artist Frida Kahlo was born. Side note there. Go back to 1928. In 1928, the first full motion picture that had sound, meaning talking, it premiered in New York City, and the name of that film was Lights of New York. 1957, Althea Gibson defeats Darlene Hurd to win the Wimbledon singles match. Is the first time that a black tennis player would ever win Wimbledon, but it certainly wasn't the last time. But 1957, this is interesting. So it's on this day, July 6th, in 1957, here's where Paul McCartney and John Lennon actually meet each other. And they meet each other for the first time at a church event in Liverpool. And I guess you could say the rest is history. In 1964, country by the name of Nyasaland broke from British rule. They became independent, and then they formed the new nation now known as Malawi. It's an island nation. In 1955, had I been able to stay in the Army, I would have been over here. We talked about World War I and where it got its start several videos back with the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. Well, Sarajevo, Yugoslavia, is where all that rigmarole started. Well, this incident, we're back we're not in Sarajevo, but we are back in the old Yugoslavia. So Bosnian Serbs, they attack Srebrenica, Bosnia and Herzegovina. I was actually supposed to go. I think I was supposed to be deployed to Herzegovina had I been able to stay in the army. And what these Bosnian Serbs, what they did is that they went on an ethnic cleansing. They killed more than 7,000 Bosniak boys and men. The interesting thing about this, two interesting things about this, is that, first of all, it was the worst massacre since World War II. And it was an ethnic cleansing of Muslims. Now, I'm not sure if that was Milosevic's faction or what, but I do know that the whole hubbub in Bosnia in the early mid-90s, which is where I would have had to deal with it had I been able to stay in the army. It was all about the ethnic cleansing issue. Apparently, Milosevic thought that he had a God-given right to go wipe out those of those who he deemed were not worthy of living, i.e., ethnic cleansing, whether they were Muslims or Jews or whoever. I don't know all the particulars, but I do remember very distinctly it had the stink and the flavor of Germany's Holocaust from the 1930s and 40s of World War II. So we fast forward to 2002. John Frankenheimer died on this day in 2002. He died in LA. He was an American director, and he had a lot of films under his belt, but one of them that really stands out is The Manchurian Candidate, and I'm not talking about The Manchurian Candidate that Denzel Washington was in with Liev Schreiber. Liev Schreiber? It was the 1962 Manchurian Candidate. Frankenheimer was the director on that project. So the last one for today, it's also on this day in 2002. So we have an American director that dies, but we have a tennis player that wins. And like I said, Althea Gibson she was the first African American or black person to have won the Wimbledon single, but she certainly wasn't the last, because here, if you know the sisters, if you know anything about tennis, you know that the dynamic duo that were the sisters, it was the Williams sisters. It was Serena and Venus Williams. They were some of the best players I'd ever seen. So Serena defeats her sister Venus to win her first Wimbledon singles match, and that happened on this day in July 6th. So that's it for today, this day in history. We'll do it again tomorrow for July 7th. And thanks for being with me. Thanks for hanging out. So have a blessed day. Take care. Be well. And we'll see you again tomorrow. All right. Take care. Bye.